Welcome to today's session. What can I share with someone? I always ask myself, what can I share with someone that will change someone's life? There are three things that I could think of, which changes not someone's life, but other people's life around them. But one thing that I feel is the missing ingredient for most people is the urgency. It's like, I should do it, and I will do it. And you look back at their life 6 months later, or a year later, or 2 years later, and nothing has changed. So if you look back at your life and say, well, nothing is changing, or it's just taking too long, it's just because you have not created an urgency in your life. Okay. Unfortunately, with business, you have to create your own urgency. Okay. If there is no urgency, nothing ever gets done. Nothing absolutely ever gets done. Something that I really like, it's like sometimes you learn something, but you don't realize it enough. When I'm sitting in India, one thing I've realized, and I'll tell you what it is if this was not an urgent situation, I would have never come to Delhi. I would have never come here. Okay, because it's just really, really bad here. But because it became a must, I decided, irrespective of what happens, I'm just gonna go, right? So it just became urgent. Likewise, in your business, if nothing is happening, or for that matter, it's very slow, is because you've not created the urgency in your mind. And you have to create that urgency. It's not something that's created. It's like inspiration or desperation. Why wait for something in life that you become desperate for? You might as well just use your inspiration to work towards it. So next time when a task doesn't get done, I need you to write a few things. Okay. Can someone share with me a task or a goal that they want to reach and they haven't reached it? Can someone share that with me? It could be a money goal. It could be any goal. It doesn't really matter. Can someone share that with me?
Buy a house.
Harry, I can see you. Yeah.
Buy a house.
Buy a house. Okay, good. Buy a house. What do you need?
Money.
How much?
About 30K.
Okay, 30K. Okay. Now, have you put a deadline on it to by what date you should have 30K?
End of the year.
End of the year. Today is the first week of May, so you practically have 6 months. Yeah, seven months, let's say. Yeah, let's not count May. You have 7 months. Divide that 30 grand by seven months. How much money do you need to make in a day? Have you calculated that?
No, I'm not going to be able to do it in my head either.
So, irrespective, I mean, you've got about 300 odd days, or I don't know, let's say you have 250 days. You need to make about £100 a day, roughly about that, right? How difficult is making £100 a day? It shouldn't be, right? It shouldn't be. Do you know why it becomes difficult?
No urgency.
It's because there's,
no urgency.
There's no urgency, and there is no consistent effort. So you may make 200 a day, and the next day nothing. You make 500 a day, and the next day you make nothing, because there's no desperation as well as enough inspiration. Does that make sense? Okay. If you've not created an urgency, it's almost like you wake up and you say, you know what? The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go and make that £100. And you try and make it in the least amount of effort and least amount of hours that you potentially can. Okay. If you watched all the videos, Harry, okay, if you watched all the videos, have you?
Yeah, I think so.
You have more knowledge than 95% of UK's population. And you are only 20 years old.
19.
19. Do you know what that means? That you could be easily making double six-figure income. Okay. If you implement every word of what you've learned. Easily. I mean, I'm saying double six-figure income easily. Okay. The question is, are you creating that urgency? Do you have a clear plan? And are you implementing on that plan every single moment consistently? Okay. again, this session is not about creating a motivation. I'm talking about an execution plan. A map is what I'm talking about. Now, I need you to raise your hand if you have a map, if you have a strategic plan, a strategic map of your business. Raise your hand if you have that. Half. That's good. That's a good start. That's a good start. Guys, if you're not making 10 grand a month, or for that matter, let's say 100, 120 grand a year, or you're not adding equity worth 100, 120 grand a year to your business, you have not even taken first step in your business. Okay. I'm actually going to give everyone a homework. Okay. Either you like it or you don't. I'm going to give everyone this homework. I need you to email me your strategic plan by the end of this month. Raise your hand if you're not going to send me one, or raise your hand if you're going to send me one. Even if it means half cooked, even if it means you don't understand, you just put something on paper, it doesn't really matter what it is. I will help you create a strategic map. Raise your hand if you're going to send me one.
Yeah, it's coming.
I believe 1/3 of the game is won as soon as you put all of the strategic map on paper. That is 1/3 of the battle. When you put urgency on top of that, that makes it 150. So sorry, half of the battle won. Okay. And then when you start to execute consistently and you lose, so you go and try something and it doesn't work, that's again winning 10% of the game, because you've just tried and it didn't work. Okay. And then it goes on and on and on. Okay. But if you don't have a strategic plan in place, you have not even started. You don't have a plan, you have nothing. It's almost like you're sitting in a car and you don't know where you want to go. You're just driving around. That's what's happening. Okay. Create a real sense of emergency is where the work gets done. Please tell me that you want me to repeat this, or you have got this in your system. Tell me that you've got it in your system now. Nothing will ever be accomplished if you don't put a clear deadline, and there's a reason it's called deadline, and with a clear sense of emergency. If any of you here wants to make £1 million by the end of the year, please put 1 million. Don't hesitate. When you shoot for the stars, you're more likely to land on the moon, which means that if you hit 1 million, if you target to hit 1 million, you may land on 150, 200. And that's not bad either. Okay. Please do so, because if you don't, you will not get there. Okay. Now, back to the actual purpose of this session, which is 3 aspects. The first is income, so your cash flow. Second is building your assets, which is creating passive income. And at the bottom of that, so think of this as a triangle. On one side, you have the cash flow. Second side, you have the assets. Those assets could be properties, or it could be business assets. Does that make sense? And at the bottom of that, impact. Okay. Now, I come across, so this is a triangle. You have the bottom, impact, and then this way you have the cash flow, which is your income generating activities, and on this side you have your assets, right? If you are not working on all of them at the same time, you will not feel content, especially the impact part. In fact, I believe that without working on the impact part, it's difficult to build these two as well. Okay. In the day and age we live in, you really need to work on the impact. That means, I remember I was listening to this movie producer a long time ago, and he said, if you want to become a multimillionaire, you cannot become one in this day and age if you don't create millionaires behind you. Does that make sense? Raise your hand if you know what I mean by what I just shared. Impact and creating millionaires behind you.
I don't get the second bit, Jack. The millionaires behind you.
So let's say if you are targeting 100 million, you're not going to get to 100 million if you don't create a few 10 millionaires behind you. Okay, which means that either these people work in collaboration, partnerships, or they are investing in you, they're investing in your projects, they're investing in your business, and you are making them money, or people who work with you, people who work for you, irrespective, stakeholders, call them stakeholders. If you don't create a few sort of 10 millionaires, you're not going to get to the 100 million mark, and so on and so forth. So if you're targeting, let's say, a billion, you're just not going to get to that mark unless you create a few 10 and 100 millionaires. Okay, if you look at the PE and business model, thank you, Kalpana. Yes, that's what it really stands on. That I want to make sure that all of you become millionaires. That may not necessarily happen, but many of you have the potential. In fact, everyone has the potential, but just I believe not everyone would be prepared to put the sacrifice required to become a millionaire. Okay, so you go by lifting others. Yes, Kalpana. So you're just not going to get there. So work on the impact first. Okay, and then alongside you work on the cash flow, and then between these two you will create the assets, right? If you look at PE at the moment, it was valued, I think you guys already know this, I shared a report with you, it was valued anywhere between 900 to 1.2 million. I believe it would be worth a lot more for the past 5-6 months. What has changed? If you look at my 2020, for those who have observed the journey, I added equity worth about 100 grand plus, if I can think correctly, to the project that we did in Slough. At the moment, I had to drop off one project, which was the hotel project. Some of you already know. I had to put that on hold, but I'm working on 3 different projects as we speak. These are development projects, and they're in the pipeline. If they all go through, we'll be adding value worth about 200 grand in equity into our portfolio, and they look like they are going to happen. So just thought I'll share that. Why am I sharing this? That even though I'm sitting in Delhi, even though it is very, very tough, but I'm still attracting that business because purely of networking and the network that we have. Those who are still underestimating your networking, think of it this way. I'm sitting in Delhi, attracting deals, doing deals. We closed one, I think it was Friday or Thursday. And then we are closing one today. Strangely enough, on a Saturday, we're still closing one today. And then we have another one lined up to close next week. And all this is happening while I am busy in a different country and not really doing much work. Now, you might ask me, what do I need to do? Like, tell me step by step, what do I need to do to get to a position like that? Harry, do you want to answer this question for everyone? I think you have that little bit of a map. What are you doing at the moment that's making things happen, either slow or otherwise fast, but they're happening, right?
Yeah, I think it's just understanding first. It took me a while to understand that it's a numbers game when it comes to a network.
Yeah.
You're not gonna, you can spend hours and hours talking to one person just to find out that person's not in the position to invest.
Yes.
So the more numbers you put in and the more connections you make, and then it's filtering them down and making those the right decisions to connect with who, and making sure those connections are effective. So I would go on LinkedIn. If I was looking for deals, I'd be looking at targeting landlords on LinkedIn. And I'd just be connecting with all the landlords, trying to bring them into my groups, my WhatsApp groups. And then you can see from the ones in the WhatsApp groups who engage the most, who's looking to make business, do business with others. And then you can go, right, these are the people that I want to surround myself with.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I would recommend one more thing for you, Harry, here. If I was you, I would go in the direction of earn and learn.
Yeah.
Okay, which means that you don't charge for your training because people don't want to pay you because you're young.
Yeah.
But if they invest in your projects,
Yeah.
that they can learn from you as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you can show them that your projects are working.
Yeah.
Okay, I believe you have the potential to go in that direction. Okay.
Yeah.
And when I say potential, I mean obviously the potential is there. What I mean by that is that your existing position. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That, and I think you're already working on that. Correct me if I'm
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay. What are the steps to get to this point? When I started with PEN, I literally was. I remember one day, and this is initially when I started networking. I was sitting one day, and there wasn't my phone wasn't ringing. Okay, and I said, "What shall I do? Like, what can I do to make this phone ring for business?" I said, "Okay, let me just go and do networking." Okay, remember, my knowledge and my observation is evolving and improving as well. So it's something that I knew maybe 3 years ago, and what I know now is different, right? So this is 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. My phone didn't ring pretty much the whole day, and I was a bit annoyed because wasn't much happening that day, or whatever. I said, okay, what can I do? So I ended up went online on Facebook and LinkedIn, and fortunately enough, I connected with one person that day, is still connected with me, and I ended up. So I connected with that person through a group. I invited him to connect on my Facebook. I invited him to one of the groups and WhatsApp groups. Eventually, I ended up closing business worth 14 million in property finance. So not business as in that sense, but 14 million pound worth of property finance business with this guy, particularly this guy, in a short period of 14 or 15 months, if I can remember correctly. Okay. All I did was, you know what, nothing happening. Let's just go and network. Okay. 14 million, I think that must have been money worth about 70, 80 grand or something like that in commission. Do you think that's bad money? Just because I decided that, well, my phone isn't ringing, let me just go on Facebook and connect with investors. Okay. That was the only decision that made me that money. Okay. That person is still connected with me. He's still sending us new business. He's still recommending us new business. In fact, he came the other day and sent us a deal which was 100 grand discounted. And we are negotiating that deal as we speak. Okay. So if I end up taking that deal, that would make it another 100 grand worth of equity in our portfolio. Okay. That is all the game is. Isn't very difficult. Raise your hand if you believe that is difficult. I'm going to share a few of the other aspects that are connected to that. Raise your hand if you think that is very difficult. Everyone thinks it's good. Chetan, you think it's difficult?
Sorry, I was speaking. I didn't realize it's on mute. No, I think it's not difficult. It's achievable, but it needs planning and consistency.
Planning and exactly. Within that, I must say one thing. I do come across people who do not have the interpersonal skills. So what do I mean by interpersonal skills? That means connecting with someone in the right way and then building that relationship in the right way. Okay. What do I mean by the right way? It's almost like you connect with someone new and you don't start jumping on pitching them. I come across so many people, like literally so many people, they connect and the first message I get is they're pitching me. Please do not do that. Interpersonal skills or your communication skills means you build a relationship. Doesn't mean that you connect with someone who leads a decent business and the first thing you do is you go and start pitching them. Please don't do that. If you connect with someone, first get to know them. Get to know what their aspirations are. What is it that they're all about? What is it that they have? What kind of challenges do they have? What kind of aspirations do they have? What is it that they actually want from life in the first place? Don't go and start pitching. I came across, well, I've come across lots of people, but this is one of the worst ones. I connected with this person, well, about 5-6 years ago. And I sent him a message about 3 years ago or 2.5 years ago. And he replied back to me. He said, I can see you're doing something, so on and so forth. And I have a proposal for you. Can I send it to you? And even though I'd connected with this guy, I didn't know him well enough. And all he did was he was pitching me. And I went back to him. I said, look, first of all, your pitch is really bad. Like you've got a really bad pitch. Okay. You've got a bad business. You've got a bad pitch. On top of that, you didn't even get to, you did not even try to get to know me as a person. Okay. Like, you know nothing about me. You don't know if I have the money, first of all, even though I did, but he didn't know. He didn't know if I was interested. He didn't know what kind of aspirations do I have when it comes to my own strategic business planning. He knew nothing about me. And all he did was he was pitching. Do you think that's going to work? Muzzy, do you want to answer this question? You would be the best person to answer this question.
I think he's just helping the VA quickly, mate.
Okay, but Harry, you can answer this question. Do you think that kind of attitude or that kind of approach helps?
No.
No. What helps in creating the right relationship is getting to know the person, getting to know their challenges, getting to know their aspirations, getting to know them as a person. What is it that they actually like? I mean, so you might speak with someone and they might be interested in football. They may want to invest in a football team, or they might be interested in, I don't know, workout or gym, or 500,000 things in this world. Try and get to know the person first. Try and see if they have a strategic plan for their life and for their business. And at that point, you go and pitch. Don't forget the GROW model. It applies to you yourself. It applies to other people as well. Without that, you are just not going to get through to anyone. And remember, it is only your deeper relationships where you will actually do real business. Okay, it's just so strange that I send deals to thousands and thousands of people, and most of the time, people who come back to me are the ones who have good deeper relationships with. Remember, people don't invest in deals, they invest in people. That means they would invest if they trust you as a person. Okay, like, it just cannot be any obvious from what's happening literally in the past couple of weeks that I have a friend of mine, and as soon as he decides to join the deal, that everyone wants to be a part of that deal. And that's because they know his track record and they know that he can deliver profits in a deal. And it's almost nothing to do with the deal and everything to do with the trust and the credibility you build in the relationships. Raise your hand if you know what I mean so far. People do not invest in deals. People do not invest in businesses. They invest in your credibility, in your brand, and the first and the foremost thing is if they trust you. If they don't trust you, if they don't trust that you can bring deals and then you can make a profit of them, out of them, they will not invest in you. But you might ask me, how do I build that trust? How do I build that credibility? How do I actually make profits from business deals? Are these reasonable questions to ask, Harry? Lavanya, do you think these are reasonable questions to ask?
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Now, if I look at, and one thing you'll observe me doing is, it's not about me, but I just have to share this. If you observe me, I invest in people by observing how they respond to situations. Okay. Yes, you will have difficult times with people. Yes, you will have up and down. Life is never as straightforward, and that's absolutely fine. We learn from all of that. But I invest in people when I can see them consistently executing and living up to their word. I observe performance, and that's when I invest in people. And that's what you need to do. Consistently executing on deals, consistently showing results, consistently growing your business, and bringing in profits. If you do that for a year, 2, 3, what will happen is people will start to trust you without you having to do anything. Raise your hand. Like the day I shared with you that PN has grown to a network of 50,000 people, I just want someone to share with me what was the thinking behind what I just shared, and what do you think about the business and me. And be as honest as possible. Like you can be rude, you can be whatever it is that you think about PN and me, share that with me, because there's something everyone will learn from that. Lavanya, I know you're very honest and shrewd, so please do share.
I don't think. Okay. First of all, you're giving a perception to other people, saying, this is my network and net worth.
We are growing fast. Yeah.
Yes, we are growing fast. Exactly. And it's a wow factor, but some of them might think, who are existing and who built a portfolio or something, who is in existing property business, they might be thinking he's trying to show off as well.
Yep. Yeah, some people will think that. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so those were the two. But newcomers definitely think, wow, yeah, this is something which we can, involve in.
Okay, good. You cannot control people's perception.
Definitely.
What you can control is your performance.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Kalpana. Excellent platform to learn and network about property and business, a lot of experience and knowledge. Again, we cannot control people's perception, but one perception that I wanted to create, and it's not just a perception, but the reality of it is that I wanted to convey that we are a fast growing business. Okay. And like I said, it's not just a perception, but that is the reality. And the reason I wanted to create that is because people want to see you perform. People want to see you perform well. Either it is deals, property, whatever it is that you are doing, they want to see you perform well. And when they see you perform well, they will start to, it's almost like you creating a subconscious credibility in their mind. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, Jack.
And that's what you want to create when it comes to building that credibility, building that trust, building that personal as well as professional brand. Okay. If let's say in 6 months, I'm looking at you, Harry, at the moment because I can see you on the screen. If let's say in 6 months you took on 6 rent-to-rents or 12, whatever that number might be, share it with people, because they will look at you and think, well, this guy is 19 years old and he's built 6 rent-to-rents or 12 rent-to-rents. And if he can do it, why can I not do it? And they might be looking at them and they might be 25, 30, 40, 50 and still struggling. But they're looking at you, getting inspired, and they would want to connect with you and say, hey, Harry, let's just do it together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And then at that point, you've got business. Okay. Either they bring in money or whatever resource that they bring in, you've got business and a collaboration physically present. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. But then the trust is built by proving your track record and with your actions more than your words. Okay. Yes, words are very, very effective, but at the same time, if you can show it with action and results, that is 100 times more effective than your words. Okay. So make sure that you perform well. And I believe performance comes from, well, multiple skills, but one of the core skills is your interpersonal skills, which is your communication skills, which is your sales marketing skills, and your strategic skills, which I insist on pretty much all the time. Okay. You can never learn enough about strategic skills. Even though I am a strategist at the core, I still learn from other people. There is lots and lots of I learn from literally every day just by observing the decisions taken by medium to large companies. And sometimes you can take that little bit of observation and you can apply it to your context, and you then start to see results. Okay, so everyone has got one homework, which is I need everyone to send me their plan, which is their map, which is their strategic plan. Irrespective of how bad it is, I need you to put something on paper, even if it means you write down 10 bullet points and send it to me. Okay, and I look at it and say, well, that's not a map, but that's okay. That's something to start with. Okay, that is one thing. There was one more thing, and then I need you. Yes, the second thing I need everyone to list is the skills that you need to learn to grow fast in your business. Okay, so let's say if Harry, in your situation, if let's say your plan is to take on 50 rent-to-rents in the next 2 years, which is what it looks like from what I get, can you list to me not just your strategic plan, but at the same time the skills that you need to improve? It could be, let's say you write sales skills, marketing skills, but then you write maybe your marketing skills when it comes to rent-to-rent, so you can be more specific. Yeah,
I've got a few of them.
And what additionally you are learning every week, every month, when it comes to specifically rent-to-rents. Okay, then you come back to me and say, after 2 years or a year later, when I'm done with this, I'm going to start jumping on land deals or development deals or whatever that might be for you. It doesn't really matter what it is. But then you start to write, I need X number of skills to be able to work when I'm done with this part. Does that make sense? It's almost like you're pre-planning 12 months ahead for the skills that you need, that you will need. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then what you will observe is that when you start working on those skills, that it will start to improve the existing strategy that you have as well, because they overlap from one to the other. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. I need everyone to write this on a piece of paper. Like I said, even if it means bullet points, please write this down. Guys, I've done this many, many times, especially in my late 20s. I did this literally all day long. I used to write every day, my goals, my deadlines. I literally did that every single moment of my life. There were times when I used to look at my goals like 3 or 4 times a day, 5 times a day, just to kind of get that inspiration, and say, I need to understand this, and I want to make sure that it is delivered effectively. If you ask me how many times have I failed, I would say maybe about 8 or 9 times out of 10. It's almost like I used to shoot way too far, and then it's almost like I used to shoot for the stars all the time, and pretty much almost all the time I would either land on the moon or on the floor. Raise your hand if you know what I mean metaphorically. Yeah. So in many cases, I would land on the floor and hit myself hard and get hurt. Sometimes I'd land on the moon. I almost never remember landing on the star. Unfortunately, I have not. It's always been, in the best of the cases, landing on the moon. Okay. I'm yet to wait. I'm still waiting to land on a star, which I think you will see when it does happen. Okay. Everyone has their own perception of it. Anyone has any questions so far? Because I'm going to continue, because I've just covered one single aspect of things. Anyone has any questions so far? Okay, so now you've got the strategic. Yeah, go ahead, Lavanya. Do you have any questions?
No, Jack. No.
Okay. So the first thing is your strategic plan, your map. Second thing is the X number of skills that you potentially need to get to that goal, to get to that mark. And then you kind of work towards it every single day. That's pretty simple. Now, let's look at the triangle that we looked at. Okay, the first step is impact. The reason I've kept impact as the base of the triangle is because when you start to help the person next to you, you will see that you will start to build these two. Okay. Now, a lot of people come to me and say, well, tell me, how does that work? How do you help the person next to you, and then you start to build your income and your asset? How does that happen? This is how it happens. Okay. I called a friend of mine. I said, you know what, I am in property business, and I get below market value deals every now and then. I think you all know how to find below market value deals, right? Raise your hand if you know how to find below market value deals, because if you've been with us for some time, you should really know this. Raise your hand if you know this. Good stuff. I think most of you know this. Okay. So I called a friend of mine and said, look, I can help you find below market value deals. Would you be interested? Even if it means 5% discount, 10% discount. If they're buying a property worth £500,000, if I get them 5% discount, that's 25 grand. If I get them a discount of 10%, that's a 50 grand discount. So I picked up the phone. I said, I can help you find this deal. And he goes, yes, go ahead, find me something and I'll pay you a commission. I helped him find a deal. We closed the deal. I got paid. I got paid to call up a friend and tell him that I can find you a below market value deal. Found him the deal from an online platform, and I got paid for that. What did I actually do? I just helped the person next to me. Raise your hand if you know what I mean. That's all I did. I promise you, I did not do anything. I did not do any magic. There was no magic in it. All I did was ask the person next to me and said, I can help you find a certain kind of deal. Would you like me to find you? He said, yes. I went and found the deal. I delivered to him. I got paid. I told him I can find you the best finance deal. I went, I found the best finance deal. I closed the deal. I got paid. Okay. The person who can help the maximum number of people earns the maximum amount of money. That is not very difficult, is it? Okay. I remember I was messaging over 100 people a day. I was messaging 120 people a day on average. That's from my phone book. That's from LinkedIn and Facebook. I'd taken LinkedIn Premium at one point. I got blocked on Facebook. I think I've been blocked like 7 or 8 times, where I've been restricted anywhere between 7 to 30 days for sending too many messages. Everything that you can think of has happened. I've been restricted on LinkedIn for sending too many messages many times, but I still consistently do it. Okay, because that is the only way to build, to first of all create that impact. So helping people, the person next to you, and creating that income and cash flow. Raise your hand if you understand very, very clearly, and I'm saying with a lot of respect, you understand very clearly what I mean by impact. That means you're helping the person next to you and you're networking heavily and getting it done, and that you're creating income at the back of that through property deals, property finance, and a whole range of other things that you can potentially do. Raise your hand if you know what I mean so far. For those of you, I think there are a couple of people that I know who are in the network who would like to training. Package your trainings. Don't hesitate. Or you can use PN's trainings and get paid. Okay. Either way, it doesn't really matter. We are bringing in a new agreement as well, which will restrict those who will sign into some activities, but then eventually it will benefit everyone in the group. But that's for later. But if you are heading in the direction of consulting, make sure that you package your consulting packages, because without packaging, it is pretty difficult to sell them. Okay. You want to make sure that you package them. At the same time, like I said, it is simply connecting with people, making sure that you can use the grow model on yourself to coach yourself and to coach other people, and then being able to create impact in their life, creating your income. Okay. Any questions on two sides of the triangle? Any questions on that? You must have questions. You need more detail into that. There's a lot of detail into all of this. Interpersonal skills are at the core of everything that you do. If you don't have good communication skills, unfortunately, you're just not going to get deals done. Okay. You need to be very, very diplomatic when you run your business. You cannot be on the face. You have to think twice before you speak. And you have to be very, very careful when you are in like a more sales environment. Okay. I'm actually going to go through the list and say, just to make sure that everyone understands the two sides of the triangle. Chetan, I can see you on top of the list. Not sure if you can hear me. Dean, sir, I can see you next in the list.
Questions? Any question?
Hi, Jack. Sorry, my phone was on mute earlier. Yes, I could hear you, and I understand what you're saying.
Any questions so far?
No, nothing at the moment, Jack. Thank you.
It's good that you understand, Chetan, but it's one thing understanding, it's another thing implementing it. Okay.
Yes, Jack. Very true.
You know, when you send me your strategic map, guys, I need you to write your goals in it as well. Pretty simple. Make them smart, specific, measurable, attainable, you know, so on and so forth. You know, all of that stuff. I need you to write that down. If I see that you are writing your goals and they're too low, you will get told off. Okay. I will tell you off in a respectful way. Okay. But if I see your goals as too low, I will tell you off. Okay. They need to be lofty, irrespective of what anyone says, right? You know, I mean, let's say, Harry, if you write your goal at £1 million, I would be happy. Okay. But if you don't, I will just come back to you and say, well, they're not lofty enough. They're not big enough. Okay. Make sure you write those goals, because if you are not targeting 1 million, or for that matter, 5 million, or for that matter, 10 million, you are not going to go too far, because you're not going to hit your 10 million goal. If you write a 10 million goal, you are more likely to hit like a 1 or 2 million. But if you write 1 million, you can only hit maybe 200,000-300,000, maybe 500,000 if you're lucky. Okay. That has been my experience. If you have a little bit of luck on your side, which I do believe in, you may hit your goal. Okay. But a little bit of luck does play a part. Okay. That's just my perspective. If you don't believe in luck, you know, that's absolutely fine as well. Okay. But make sure you write your lofty goals, because without them, you're not shooting far enough. That is very, very important. Okay. Dean, sir, I can see you next in the list. Any questions? Not sure if you can hear me. Emmanuel, any questions?
I got a question, Jack.
Go ahead, Harry.
How do you practice communication skills though? Is it just communicating? Is that as simple as it is, or is there ways to actually practice it?
Okay, so I'll tell you, there are various ways to do this. Okay. One thing that I did a lot is pitching, like pitch, like crazy pitching. Okay. At the same time, shadow someone when they are pitching. Okay. Because in communication, I think I've shared this previously, only the effectiveness of the whole communication, words are only 7%. So the words that someone uses has effect of only 7% in the picture. It's your body language and your tone that has the maximum impact. In fact, there's a research on it. It's 58% your body language. I think it is 7%, and then it's 35% your tone. Okay. So it's one thing that you listen to someone when they're pitching, but it's another level when you're shadowing someone and they're pitching, because then you can see their body language and their tone. Does that make sense?
Then you got to find the best person for pitching, right?
Yes, there are lots of people you can shadow. I think you're surrounded by some good people already. But if I was you, there's a couple of things I'd do. One is shadow me. Okay. come and shadow me. I know you did that quite a lot, but do more of. Okay. Second is shadow Ryan. Yeah, he is very good. I've observed him. He is very, very good. Okay. Take on a couple of online sales courses or books. I think you already do that. Grant Cardone, Zig Ziglar. I would do all of this. I've done this many, many times in my life. But I would definitely shadow different kinds of people, because the more you shadow, the more it will help you with your communication skills. I believe your communication skills are fairly good anyway. Okay. But there's never enough that you can, there's always room to learn. Okay. So keep shadowing members that you're surrounded by. I believe Ranjan is good as well. But I believe Ryan is one of the best that I can think of in my mind who you are surrounded by. Okay. But yeah, just keep shadowing. I have personally messaged a few billionaires for me to interview them and then to shadow them as well. You can do the same. Okay. Remember, I used to actually have clients who were billionaires. So I have actually shadowed these people, not in a formal way, but more like an informal way when they used to be my clients, and I used to be around them all the time. Okay. So I've really, really heavily observed these people. In fact, one of them I can remember is actually the third richest man in India. And I was with him for a period of about 2 weeks. I took him to all the government official places. I took him to to many of the MPs and House of Lords members, and
So
I've taken him into different places.
you know when you're saying shadowing, you're not talking about for a day. You're talking about for a week or 2 weeks here.
As much as you can get.
Okay.
As much as you can get. Yes. So, like I said, I've been very fortunate enough to shadow these people. Some in formal ways, some in informal ways, some through communication with different businesses, and so on and so forth. So I've been lucky, but not a lot of people get that chance. I'm actually very good friends with another person who is actually the managing director of a listed company with a cap of 9 billion. He's like a friend. I can call him up. I can speak with him. He's very, very shrewd, unbelievably shrewd. In fact, to a point of rudeness. But he is very good. He is, there's a reason why he's a managing director of that company. So I've been fortunate enough. But that's the things you want to do to answer your question. And it's never easy. But one thing I can tell you is the more people observe your performance, the more people see that you're kind of executing on your business, the more you kind of attract those people anyway. Okay. So it just becomes a natural process of attracting people like that. Okay. I remember there's a reason I'm sharing these stories, because you can then relate to yourself. Like I said, guys, the only time I share stories about myself is to share how you can relate to them, how you can apply to in your situation. Some of you do jobs, others who have different relationships. How can you find these people? I was also connected with an MP in Indian Parliament. In fact, he is actually in power at the moment. I shadowed him for 2 weeks. A very, very famous personality in India. I shadowed another member. In fact, he was the chairman of another listed company. He is one of the most well-known people in Mumbai, in Bombay, where the Bollywood sits. But like I said, I've been just fortunate as well. I remember shadowing another person who used to run the largest law company in New York. Okay. And yeah.
What? So like the people you've shadowed, Jack, they're all a mixture of industries.
They are, yes.
And that's what you got to do.
That's what you got to do, yes. You will be surprised that when you start to dissect how a different kind of business works, not besides property, you can take that idea and start to implement into property, and it just works magic. Another thing I want everyone to do So everyone is getting a little bit of homework there, okay? I have been forced to do this. I don't want to give anyone any homework. I hate that, but I have to give something. I need everyone to take one business. It could be any business. It could be a local business which is doing well. It could be a medium-sized business that you've had some sort of interaction with, or it could be a large business that you only kind of watch news on. I want you to dissect the idea and write the aspects of the business, and then see how those ideas dissection can work in your business. Okay, I need everyone to do that, even if it means you write Amazon.com and you write 5 bullet points. Okay, even if you do that, it doesn't really matter. I need everyone to do that. Okay, and I need everyone to email it to me. Okay, because what's going to happen is that you will start to write that and you'll be like, oh wow, Amazon did this. I could take that and implement it into my small business. Does that make sense? Okay, I need everyone to write that. Like I said, it could be any business. Could be just a coffee shop around the corner and they have a long queue standing outside. I need you to write what is it that they do or they did that made them successful, and then how can you take that and implement into your business? Does that make sense? Yeah. And then what I will do is I will send those emails. I will actually take all of those emails and I'll write a collective one single email and I'll send it to everyone. I will not write names. I'll remove the names so you don't have to worry about that, but I will make it a collective idea section and I'll send it across to everyone. That way we are pretty much multiplying our collective business idea wisdom, you can say, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, raise your hand if you're going to do this. If I don't see someone's hand, they're in trouble. You know that I'm not like that. I'm not going to do anything. Good stuff. Good stuff. Please do this. You will be absolutely surprised when you start to do this and how it starts to affect your business and how you can actually take that and grow your business massively. Okay, you look at Amazon. I'll give you an idea. You look at Amazon, and Amazon, I remember about 5 or 6 years ago, was working on literally 2% profit margin. Can you look at a business worth $1 trillion cap working on 2% profit margin? 2% of a $1 trillion cap is only maybe 200 million. Okay, can you imagine that size of business only making 200 million? But guess what? That is exactly why they are like a $2 trillion, $1 trillion cap or whatever they are now. Okay, that is exactly the reason. Okay, if you look at the business model, they have their, for example, the retail business, which was at one point actually not making any money, but they were making money from their Prime, they were making money from their Audible, and a whole lot of other things that they do. It's almost like they have got, let's say, 100 different business lines, and they're not making money from 50 of them, and they're making money from 50 of them. Does that make sense? Okay, but they keep building credibility on top of each other, eventually leading to a very substantial market value cap. Okay, that's what's important. So you got to remember that you might be, let's say, running a rent-to-rent unit. Like I can see you, Harry. I keep seeing you on the screen, so I keep picking that up. Accept my apology. But let's say maybe you have 5 of those rent-to-rent units, and they're not profitable. And then you have 20 at the back of that which are profitable, or whatever that ratio might be. But then at the back of that, you've started this, let's say, development side of things, and then you've built this credibility where you're attracting people for investments. And even though this business is not as profitable, but now the credibility of that has started to make your development business profitable. Does that make sense? Yeah, you keep building on top of each other. It is credibility, it is trust, and it is business and collaborations. Does that make sense? Okay, like you look at, for example, PEN, you look at Inner Circle, it is actually a loss-making business line. Okay, it doesn't make profit, forget about profit, it actually loses money. Okay, but you know what? I keep building that. At the back of that, I keep attracting business into the other side, where people come to me for finance, people come to me for deals, people come to me for other things, and I make a profit at the back of that. I think many of you actually remember the front end and the back end. You could have a few business lines at the front end, which don't make you any business, while you have business lines at the back, which may make you profit, okay? Or which will make you profit. Anyone has any questions? So now you've seen the impact, you've seen the business lines or the cash flow or the income side. This income level needs to get to a bare minimum of 10 grand a month or 100 grand a year. It doesn't really matter which way you look at it, but that's where it needs to get to before you start to work on your equity or your asset building side. Because if you don't have enough income, you cannot start to work on creating assets easily, at least.
Isn't
Okay?
the business needs 10 grand a month, or you need to be paying yourself 10 grand a month?
Doesn't really matter. It's the same thing.
Okay.
Okay. We're not talking about taxes at the moment. That's besides the point. But for as long as you make 10 grand, either you take it in your self-employed income, or you take it in the business and you take it as a salary. It doesn't really matter, for as long as the 10 grand a month is coming in. What I tend to do is, and I can share that with you, I take half. So I tend to take half in the company, and I tend to take, in fact, I take probably more on the self-employed side, okay, to obviously pay less taxes, which is obvious, which anyone can do, okay? But before you can get to that asset building side, you need to build this 10 grand a month income, okay? Yes, you can do this simultaneously as well, but what you'll find is that if you don't have enough income coming in, you'll just find it very difficult to build assets in the company. Either it is property, or it is investing into technology, or any of those other things, building a very automated marketing system, building a very automated CRM system, you know, 500,000 other things that you can potentially do to create assets in the business. You cannot do them effectively enough unless you don't have money coming in from this side of the triangle. Does that make sense? Okay. So if you have 10 grand a month coming in, and let's say you need 5 grand for your expenses, you've got 5 grand extra a month to buy properties, to invest into CRM, invest into hiring someone, invest into whatever it is that you need in that moment of time to build assets in your business. It could be buying an office, it could be buying a commercial building, it could be buying more residential properties, HMOs, hotels, anything that you look at. You need enough income coming in from this side for you to be able to build this side of your business. Raise your hand if you know what I mean so far. Good stuff. Now, you might come back to me and say, why can't I go and raise external investment? The answer is yes. Business is all about being creative. It doesn't really matter how you get to help the person next to you. Like, for example, I'll give you, we actually ended up taking the admin of a few groups. So more impact, creative. So you can do that. You can do whatever you like to have more impact. We are creating different kinds of videos. We are trying to use as much creativity as possible with our content. Whatever it is that you need to be able to create that impact, or to grow your network, do it. You know, my phone contact list sat at about 2,000 when I started PEN. At the moment, it sits at 7,000. I'll share that with you. I actually did a backup day before yesterday, and my contact list sits at 7,046 contacts in my phone. And this is built from roughly about 2,500, if I can remember correctly, all the way up to 7,000, literally in a period of 2.5 years. Okay, so make sure you use your creativity to grow your impact, which is getting referrals from people, creating systems to get more referrals, growing your network, and then obviously creating income at the back of that, and then obviously creating your assets at the back of that. Okay. I'm actually going to go through the list and ask questions. Lavanya, do you have any questions? I can see you at top of the list.
No, Jack.
Good stuff. Can anyone draw this triangle for me for what I just shared? Let me see it on a piece of paper if everyone remembers that. Chetan, any questions?
No, Jack. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Emmanuel, any questions?
Not at the moment. Thank you, Jack.
Dean, sir, any questions?
No, I'm okay. Thank you.
Geeta, any questions?
Hi, morning, Jack. Morning, everyone. I probably would just ask about, firstly, like, I'm sure I've been hearing to everything, just on the research part, because, when it comes to saying that, okay, do your area research or do your business before you launch your business, do this in terms of research. Is there anything like in particularly when you come to research part, what are the things you should be really looking at apart from, of course, the banners and their website and things like that? Because you don't really get to have an insight, because this is what I've been struggling with. I don't seem to get an insight of things apart from, of course, just the pricing bit, which doesn't give me a complete picture. So I don't know if you can help.
Of course, that's a good question. First of all, your website doesn't make you money. Your logos don't make you money, okay? Unless you are into digital marketing, okay? So just remember that your website is a secondary thing. And yes, it needs to be done effectively, but that does not make you money unless you're into digital marketing, okay? Coming back to your research, I had actually shared a guide in the group. Did you read that? It actually has
Jack,
you did.
I mean, I read all the documents which you shared about, but
it is not detailed enough.
I mean, but because I'm trying to, like, of course, after implementing all those steps, which even Harry was talking through, when you actually try to deep dive into the research area before you do your pricing, you kind of, you kind of really get a little bit confused if it's right or not, because you don't see what exactly people are actually making. So I'm not sure. Yeah.
I'll share with you something, okay? This is what I tend to do when I'm doing my research, okay? The first step is basically Google. Like, I remember when I was launching PEN, I actually went all the way up to the 80th page of Google. Now, how many people do you know who would ever actually go to the 80th page of Google? Okay. Like, I literally went through everything that I could read about a property social media network. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, there was absolutely nothing that was not available at that point. I haven't done as much research after that. I've done a little bit, but not a lot. But I literally read everything that was available about launching a social media platform on property. Now, when I was launching this, remember, as a social media platform, most social media platforms make money from ad space, right? And I don't know if you know this, but basically monetizing ad space is very, very difficult. Okay, like, it is so difficult, it's unbelievable. But at the same time, if you can pull it off, it can be very, very profitable, because you're practically not doing any work for it, right? So if I can sell ad space worth £10,000 a month, and I'm not doing any work for it, my business could be worth £10 million. Does that make sense? Okay, but I did so much research on Google that there was absolutely nothing, and there was actually no direct competition. Okay, so you got to look at your direct competition as well as indirect competition. Give me an example, Geeta, of what is it that you were researching on, so I can give you more contextual based.
So, for example, of course, as you probably know, like briefly with regards to plan to have letting agency, or you can say, property management, I have not decided an exact discrete description of it, because that itself is quite research part to be done, because, it's quite I wouldn't say misleading. It's quite, you can say, very, very much when people say property management, some people say HMO management, some people say letting, some people say state agent. So I'm just trying to make sure what exactly I can deliver. So when it comes to the research, sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
So when it comes to the research area, more likely talking about the area, because I'm based in Ashford. but I perhaps, Ashford is very limited in terms of opportunities when it comes to thinking about, I mean, I wouldn't say limited, but I'd say if in case I want to probably a little bit take more of the area, probably I will go more towards like Feltham, a little bit towards Hounslow. I mean, whatever is in my close radius of traveling, like let's say up till 30 minutes drive. So for me to do a research of each area to make sure I'm kind of, really being able to compete. I'm not trying to target anything which is like, established companies, because that's going to be very much probably, high to think about. But at least with the independent letting agents, I was not able to get like what I should really be basing myself, because, some of them have very, probably they talk about the pricing when you call them. So I was just trying to think if there's any research way
I can
of,
do that. Yes.
yeah,
I can share with you something. Okay. Let me share with you
yeah,
something. Before you do this research, there's something that everyone needs to be aware of. Okay. Which is your business cycle. Okay.
mhm,
And I'll share with you on the research after that, so you have more clarity, because they're both correlated. The first step is business cycle. Remember, when a new product comes into the market, it is initially very profitable. Then eventually there is a lot more competition, and then eventually it gets to a point where it's actually not profitable. Does that make sense?
mhm,
Estate agency business in and itself is so saturated that it is to a point where it's, if you start an estate agency, you'd be lucky if you can just earn enough that you would earn in a job. Does that make sense?
mhm,
But then you might say, well, where is the strategic positioning? Where is the creativity? Let me share with you something.
mhm,
Now, I am very familiar with Middlesex area, okay? Or for that matter,
mhm,
West London, right? Now,
mhm,
one thing I can share with you, which I don't think many people have noticed. If you drive on M4 and A4 going into or out of London, you'll observe that a lot of new buildings coming up. In fact, even in Slough and Hounslow area, which are alternative methods of construction. Have you noticed?
yeah,
Yeah, lots of them. It's not just a one or two. I'm talking about hundreds of them. Raise your hand if you know what I mean, if you are in West London, or if you're familiar with West London. Okay, pretty much the whole of Slough, especially the larger developments, they're all alternative methods of construction, which are timber frames. Okay, does anyone know if there is an estate agency that only deals with timber frames? Raise your hand if you know any estate agency. Geeta, does that give you an idea?
yeah,
Yeah. Can you see that it is creative thinking? Okay. Look
yeah,
around. What is it that no one is specifically positioning themselves as? Okay. If there is no estate agency that says we only sell timber frame buildings, and if you like literally, if I drive from Slough into central London, I could show you at least 10,000 units being built of timber frame. Is that a good positioning to take?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Where has this come from? Just because you asked me this question.
mhm,
There is no estate agency positioned like that. I do not know personally of an estate agency saying we only sell timber frame new builds, and we specialize in that, and then we are the ones who know everything about it. Well, you got to obviously know everything about it before you start your positioning. Okay, that's an
yeah,
idea for you. But remember, where did this come from? Your unique positioning. You got to create your unique positioning. You can't just go back in the market and say, you know what, this guy is an estate agent and he's doing lettings, I'm going to do lettings. This guy's doing HMOs, I'm going to start doing HMOs. This guy's doing, you don't jump into what everyone else is doing. Try something that is not being handled on well. Does that make sense?
yeah,
Okay, I'm pretty sure these developers are giving these buildings to the likes of Foxtons, Savills, and 500,000 other estate agents. But I think if there was one estate agency that came up and said, we specialize in this, you will beat the likes of Foxtons, because Foxtons is very, very expensive. Okay,
yeah,
Savills, very, very expensive. If you went ahead and said, Foxtons charges you 2.5% for sales, and we're going to charge you 1.5%, but we specialize in timber frame, I do not see one developer saying no.
There is
Does that
one
make sense?
estate. Sorry, Jack. There is one estate agency who is in Kent. I think they are called JVIP. They do projects only specialized in modern methods of construction.
Modern methods of construction. Yeah. Are they developers?
Yeah. They are developers as well as estate agents.
There you go. Look, you'd be lucky if you find absolutely no competition. Okay, there will be some competition. I mean, I launched PEN and there was no social media platforms, property social media. And then a year later, when I checked, there was already one there. Okay, I launched the report bad drivers. Well, we haven't launched it yet. We're going to launch it. But we started building the report bad drivers app. A few months later, I checked someone has launched something similar. Okay, that's a part of the game. But at the same time, the first in the game with the strongest execution wins the game. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Geeta, does that answer your question to some extent?
Yeah, to some extent, yeah.
To some extent, yes. Look, you got to find your unique positioning. If you are in the market doing the same thing as everyone else, it is very, very difficult to make money. Okay, you got to find something new. You got to use your relationships well. I think the reason PN is doing fairly well, I won't say it's doing exceptional, but it's doing fairly well, is because we are attracting people into the network because of the social media features. And at the back of that, we do deals, which means that we tend to be profitable. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got to find a creative way to do that. Okay,
Yeah.
and then this applies to pretty much everything. But going back to your research, the only thing you can do is Mr. Google. Okay, I cannot think of another way. I do know some large companies buy data. Okay, but as a small business, that's not where you sit. Okay, I know a couple of companies who've paid for data. I'm talking about millions, but these are companies who are worth billions in their market cap, and they can afford to pay for that data. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, there are some data companies which charge a lot of money to provide you data to take decisions which help you with your strategic positioning. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good stuff.
Thank you.
And make sure to use enough keywords as well. Sometimes when you are researching on an idea and you do 1 or 2 keywords, that's not enough. Okay. One more thing that I tend to do is I take a lot of feedback. If you observe me, I'm literally taking feedback all the time. So I'll speak with the person, the investors, the developers. I'll speak with people in the market and say, what kind of challenges do you normally face that you would like a solution for? Okay, so be very, very sort of inclined towards taking feedback at every step of the way. That's very, very important. Okay, I think you guys observe me. I literally take feedback all the time, and I keep taking like a collective wisdom of everyone and then start to work on that and start to implement that on my business. Some work, some don't work, but that's a part of the process. Okay. Does that answer your question a bit more?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Thanks, Jack.
Good stuff. Welcome. Harry, any questions? Probably busy. Kalpana, any questions?
No, Jack, I'm good. Thank you.
I need everyone to please have lofty goals. Please have bigger goals, because without bigger goals, you will not go too far. Okay, like literally, you need to have that. It's almost like I'm gonna make 100 million and leave it to my kids or leave it to a charity, because when you do so, you'll get that satisfaction. You will get that feeling of accomplishment that you achieved something in your life. Okay, don't target 500,000. Okay, it doesn't go. You target 500,000, you'll only make maybe a $250,000. Okay, and that does not go too far. Very, very important to have bigger goals. Lavanya, any questions?
No, Jack.
Mazi, any questions?
No, I'm okay for now. Thank you.
Pami, any questions? Sejal, any questions?
No, Jack, I'm fine, thanks.
Suraj, any questions?
No, thank you, Jack. Thank you.
Ashwina, any questions?
It's Arvind. No, I'm good.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. If that is it, then that's today's session. Make sure that you send me your strategic map. You write the goals. You dissect an idea, and then we can share this collectively with everyone without the names. If you don't want me to share your name, if you want me to share your name, I'd be happy to do that as well. But it is always the collective wisdom that actually plays a part. In fact, many of the bigger companies these days have actually created systems in place where they have online forums and they have specifically employed people who actually take ideas and they start to implement in their business. This is actually a norm these days, and this can be applied to a smaller business as well. And then I would recommend you heavily to do that. Can someone just share with me what's the homework? Muzzy, I can see you first in the list. What's the homework?
The homework is to give you a plan. Send you a plan in an email.
One.
That's
three
one
things.
of them.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, the other ones I might have missed, Jack, so I was in and out.
So your homework, your goals, okay, and the third thing is dissecting an idea. So dissecting
one of the businesses, yeah.
Dissecting any business and then looking at those ideas and saying, how can I implement that into my business? Okay.
Okay. This is by the end of the month, isn't it?
It's end of the month. Can everyone please write this? It will take you no more than 15-20 minutes to do this. And even if you do like a really bad job, it would be still better than not doing any of it. Okay. Please do this. Guys, I do this all the time myself. I've been in business most of my life, and I can tell you it is as effective it is that it was about 15 years ago when I started doing it. Okay. I still have a strategic map. In fact, it's still in my diary as in India. Like I came here and I bought my diary, and that strategic map is still with me here. Okay. So it stays with me at all times. Okay. Please do this. It's a request. And at the same time, like I said, it will literally change your life when you start to do that, because you might look at it and say, I don't know, how is that going to help me? But when you start to work on it, when you start to actually implement building your income and your impact and your assets in your business, you will see how it actually works really well. Yes, Kalpana, I've shared this previously. I'll share it with you again. In fact, I need to update it, but I'll share the old one, which is sitting with me, and I'll share with you the new one when I get back to London. Okay, I will do that. All right, guys, that is today's session. I'm actually going to stop recording.